Do you think your therapist might be making you worse?
If that's the case, here's some things that you should be looking out for.
We'd obviously like to say that if anyone is a therapist, a psychotherapist, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, they will be doing that job because they care. And there's many reasons why you just don't have the right rapport with that therapist. The first one is, have you considered your expectations? What we mean by that is if you've got an issue and you expect to be cured, and there's nothing wrong with that. Let's be honest, if you've got toothache and you go to a dentist, you expect to walk out without toothache, and that's happened in the past. If you want your hair cut in and you go to a hairdresser, you walk out and your hair's cut. So in the same way, if you've got an emotional issue that you want help with, then it's okay to expect to 100% get over that. However, if your therapist is just giving you ways to manage your emotions, then you're going to have a mismatch and you're going to feel let down.
Yeah, so it's really important to sit down with your therapist, explain your expectations and find out what their expectations of your time together is, and that will help save a lot of disappointment.
And prior to finding a therapist, if you're looking for one privately, then call the therapist up and say, I've got XYZ issue. Have you cured people with this issue? So you know before you even meet them.
So is your therapist making you feel like your issue is something that's really not that important or not that serious, and then you're finding yourself almost trying to prove yourself, almost trying to justify just how badly that you're feeling because you really feel like your therapist is just dismissing your symptoms? If that's the case, you really need to explain to your therapist how they're making you feel.
If you've been seeing a therapist for a while, do you find sometimes that they don't remember your situation? They forgot little things about you, like how many siblings you've got, whether your parents split up when you were younger. If they can't remember those minor details, you may have a problem.
Yeah, you might actually make you feel worse because you feel like you're not really that important. And again, make sure you say, I did actually mention this to you last time, to give them a little nudge to make sure that they read their notes. Another thing that you might find is that your therapist seems really disinterested. And it might be that you're pouring your heart out, you're telling them exactly how you feel, and then you see this. Or looking up at a clock. And then that just makes you feel terrible and makes you feel that you're not important and that they don't really care. Now, if that happens again, we would strongly recommend vocalize it, because you might be feeling really bad. Whereas, if you said to your therapist, are you in a hurry, or are you not interested in what I'm saying? I noticed that you're looking at the time. You might be surprised what they come back with. It might just be that something happened that day, they had some sort of a trauma. Perhaps a loved one is having an operation at 3 o'clock and 3 o'clock is approaching and they've just got them on the mind. So, if you tell them, they will then at least be able to explain to you why it is that they looked at their watch, and that helps you to not feel quite as bad.
It's far better to get that information even than to think they're obviously not interested in them because they'd rather look at the watch or whatever else.
Exactly. There's usually a good explanation behind it.
Yeah, we have actually heard of one case, though, to be fair, and there's no excuse for this, where the therapist actually fell asleep in the session.
Oh, my word. Yeah, that is so true. Can you believe that? A therapist falling asleep in a session.
That's just showing absolute and utter lack of interest, really.
Well,
but then again, they could have a young child, they're up all night, or been up, several nights consecutively, and they're just absolutely shattered themselves. So.
Yeah, it's not acceptable, but it has happened. And again, don't lose sight of the fact this is your therapy, this is your life, this is
and
your
head. Problems.
It's all about you.
Yeah.
That hour or that session is all about you. So don't, just as though, like Nick said earlier, if you're going to the hairdressers, you're going to tell them exactly what you want. This is no different. You've got to vocalise exactly what you're expecting and what you want.
Also, if you feel that you're holding back, you've got this information you want to tell your therapist, but you just don't know how to say it in the right way. You don't feel that you can tell them. Again, if you don't tell them all the information, they can't help you. So you can be going to session after session and not getting anywhere, and that's because you've not given them the full information. But if you feel you can't give someone the full information, that means that you've not got rapport with your therapist, and really you need to find someone else.
So are you feeling like you're just having a chat with your therapist, but you're actually not really making any progress.
A lot of people get into that
yeah,
situation.
You kind of, where they just feel like they're having a conversation, but there isn't actually any resolution being offered to them. And if that's the case, again, you know, just chatting it through isn't necessarily going to make you feel better. You need some resolutions. And so if that's the case, it may mean that you may either need to look for a new therapist or ask and say, okay, we've discussed this, now what? Where do I go with that? How do I feel better about that? What's my next step? So you've got to run that session.
So many people have told us that they've left their therapy session feeling worse than when they went in. And that's most often because they've got to a point in the session, they're coming towards the end of the session, and then they talk about a situation that's traumatic. And to talk about that, they have to immerse into the feelings, they have to talk about how they felt, what was going on at that moment in time. All these emotions are stirred up, and then the next minute, the session's over. And these emotions aren't put back. So actually, they're leaving the session worse than how they walked in.
Yeah. So if that's you, or if you're not happy with your therapist, as we've said, listen, this is all about you. If you're not happy, then do look, if you can, for another therapist, or at least explain to your therapist how you're feeling. They're human. They also have things going on in their lives.
And let's be honest, you know, life is what it is. It throws good things and bad things towards us. And having therapy is something that we'll all need at some point in our life, you know, so don't lose sight of, and you know, don't think, well, oh, there's something really wrong with me. No, it's not. It's situations in life, and everyone should have therapy at some point.
So do take a look around our YouTube channel, because we've got a great little film on there that's a really great technique. It's a technique to help you to make the most of your therapy session, because it will help you to find the cause of your anxiety, and it's something that you can do, take along to your therapy session, so that you can actually ensure that your therapy session is exactly what you need, tailored to you, and covering the things that you need to cover.
And please consider, if you're not born with something and you don't like it, you do not have to live with it.